Welcome to Mission Morning. Welcome back to another episode of Mission Morning. And today we're continuing our conversation about parents on a mission. Last week we had the pleasure of being joined by Rolando, my son, who is 11 years old. Today we have...
Hi, I'm Reagan. I'm 13 years old.
Today we have his big sister Reagan. She's 13, and they're both going to talk with us about just helping parents. How do we make sure that on our mission to make you into disciples, that we do the right thing, right? So today we're going to look at a scripture in Matthew chapter 19. I'm going to ask you guys to help me to read Matthew 19. And we're going to read verse 13 and 14. And Reagan, can you read verse 13? And Rolando, verse 14.
Verse 13. Then people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them. But the disciples rebuked them.
But Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me. Don't stop them, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people who are like these children."
Okay, thank you so much. So here's the thing. So we have a situation where Jesus is with his disciples, and some little children are brought to Jesus, right? For him to place his hands on them and pray for them, but the disciples rebuke them. Why do you think they wanted to stop the children from coming?
In my opinion, I feel that they thought having the children come to Jesus and having Jesus pray for them would be a waste of important time.
So they thought it was a waste of time, him spending the time with the kids.
Yes, because maybe he felt that they weren't as important as if they were praying for adults.
Okay, so maybe that's what was happening. The disciples rebuked them, but then it's interesting. Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, do not stop them, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people who are like children," is basically what he's saying. In other words, there's something we can learn from children, and Jesus wants us to bring children to him. Okay. Of course, Jesus isn't here today. So, Reagan, how do you think we can bring children to Jesus in these days, even though he's not here physically with us?
I think that if you include children more in church service, like, I'm not talking about children's church or anything like that, like actual church service, I think you could help bring the children more towards
Okay,
Jesus.
that's interesting. Include them more. Do you mean make it more relatable?
Yeah, make it more relatable to children because they are the future of the generation.
Okay, Rolando, what do you think?
I agree 100% with what Reagan is saying, as often from experience as I was a child, well, when I was younger, I would often be taken to children's church, and we would learn basic verses and things, but we weren't actually there to experience the church service. We would just be in a separate room or separate area making cutouts of the ark, coloring and things.
So you're saying that the way church is done for kids is like playtime?
Yes, more similar to playtime than an actual spiritual gathering.
So this is really good to know. Reagan, let's get back to you. What do you think you would gain from being included more in the adult service and being brought to Jesus in that way?
I think I would learn a lot more than if I was coloring and just learning the basic Bible verses, because listening to the pastor actually preach about God will help us learn more.
Okay. And Rolando, your thoughts on how our attitudes towards children can change how you feel about learning about your relationship with God?
Well, to continue on with what Reagan said, I believe that we should include children in the entirety of church service, allow them out for breaks and such that it would be mandatory, so that they come back in ready to focus and they're not itchy or fidgety. And a really special part for me was listening to the sermon.
Okay, wow. So, very often as adults, we think that, well, let's get to church and let's send the children off somewhere else where they can do children things, where they can do kid stuff, and thinking that when we get together for service that the children aren't interested in it. But you're saying that you'd prefer for the service to be more child friendly but have the children included.
Yes.
I think that the younger children, even if we were to make it more child friendly, a lot of the younger children wouldn't understand. So it probably should stay the same for very young children. But I think for the older children, they should be allowed into the normal actual sermon.
Okay, that's great. And I mean, I hear your suggestions, Rolando, about allowing there to be breaks.
So that the children can get so that their minds can take time to absorb the information they just learned, new words they could have heard, try to understand new meanings, instead of, if there are no breaks, I've experienced this myself, I often get bored and fidgety.
Right. So you see, that's the challenge that we have, because you're getting bored and fidgety. You want to be there,
Yes.
but we don't want you to be so fidgety that you disturb the service for everyone else.
Exactly.
So what we have to figure out is how to balance this to make sure that you are not being turned away from Jesus, but you are encouraged, you're learning. As you're saying, at a certain age, children are learning more than we understand. And we must bring them in. Thank you guys so much for the things that you shared. I would not have thought about those things. It's always great talking with you about how we can be more mission minded towards you. Okay guys, so you heard it for yourself again. We're talking about bringing children to Jesus, and here from Reagan and Rolando, they're 11 and 13, and they're talking about how can we make church more child friendly. Be aware of the fact that they may not have the same kind of attention span that we do, but don't underestimate how much they learn, how much they absorb, how much they want to learn about Jesus. Could we be turning our children away from Jesus because of how we do church? For those churches and groups that include your children, a great job. But some of us need to learn these lessons. That was really encouraging and challenging too. I hope you are encouraged as well. Have a great week this week on The Mission. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.